Welcome to the Mayhem to Marketing Show, and today we're going to talk about how to become the master at what you do. So today I was not going to record an episode. I wasn't going to do it. I guess I was. I was wanting to do it. This week has been really, really unproductive. And I wasn't, everything's kind of been all over the place. Still got kind of a looming headache from this morning. But it's one of those weeks. But I had to hop on here. I was like, okay, yeah, I need to record an episode. I try to do it every other day. And I was like, this topic just popped into my mind and I really need to share something about this. I was listening to something. So I dropped everything. I stopped working. I tend to listen to things while I work sometimes. If I'm doing like slow work, I tend to listen to some podcasts. And one of the things that I dropped everything because I heard this story that I've actually, if I explain this to some average person, I said, oh yeah, I've heard this story many times. Which I have. I've heard this story many times, but I heard it this one more time, and something clicked in me. And so I dropped everything. I was like, okay, we're gonna pause work for a little bit. I've got some things to do, and it's a slow day, and that's okay. But here we are, and I needed to share this with you. There's this story that this guy that I listened to or used to listen to a lot started talking about a ton. It's called the Hollywood story or whatever, and it talks about how to launch a product. Hollywood, for example, goes, and I don't need to get into super details about this story, but it's more about what the story was used for in the context of the story. But the story is basically when Hollywood goes to launch a product, they send out trailers about a year ahead of schedule sometimes. Maybe teaser trailers or previews then. Like way out ahead of schedule, and they might already have the movie done. And then they release a few trailers just to get hype for the movie and get people excited. And then what do they do a week before? Well, a week before the movie launches and it's released in the theaters, they have all of the main actors go on to talk shows. And they go to talk shows and talk about the movie and get people excited about it. And that's how they launch products. And that's, so he was basically making the point, this is how we launch a product. This is what's going on. How do we gear up for that launch? Well, you got to make it a big deal. And I was like, I've heard this story a ton of times from this one person. Namely, his name is Russell Brunson. I've talked about him in the past. And you could go check out his stuff. I highly recommend it. And I was listening. It's a story that I've heard over and over again. And I was actually listening to Steve Larsen tell that same story. It was back when it wasn't really that popular and Russell didn't really tell it. But he was explaining his experience with that story and his own application of that. And it clicked for me that Russell, I stopped listening to Russell a while ago. It was probably a few months ago. I was like, okay, I don't need to really listen to him anymore. I've heard a lot of what he has to say, and most of his big topics, I've heard it all. And so I started listening to Steve J. Larsen. And I found that his content is refreshing because he's coming at it from someone who just started, but has found success in just starting. Success I would call is $7 million. That's a success he's found in the past few years as Russell Brunson's right-hand man, or used to be. So, Russell tells that story over and over again. I've heard all of his stories. And I started to think, man, this is like kind of annoying. But at the same time, I see why he does it. I see why he talks about these stories over and over again. He he masters a story. He has a complete system for telling stories called the Epiphany Bridge script. And he runs all of his stories through that, and he tries to lace story into every talk. I've heard that one of his big main talks that he gave that generated $2 million in income in 90 minutes, I think it was. He told a story every 5 minutes. So he became a master at storytelling. And when you hear his stories, he tells every story the exact same way. The exact same way. He uses the same words. He doesn't miss a point in those stories. And I see why he does that. And maybe you see how he does that too. Why he does that. He does that because he knows it works. He knows the story's effective and it will touch people and it will sell ultimately. And usually when you're in the business long enough, like he's been in the business for a long time, the stories always relate to the same problems that people have over and over and over again. Like for a launch, he would tell that Hollywood story right away if he was talking about a launch to someone, how to launch effectively or how to launch a product. Like if someone came to him and said, "Hey, this product's not working. I just launched it last week, but no one's buying." And he was like, "Well, did you have a launch sequence?" And they're like, "No, what's that?" And then, "Okay, let me tell you about the Hollywood story. Blah, blah, blah." It's effective, and he's got the same stories he cycles through. So that's why he tells the same stories over and over again. And I knew that. I knew that was why, but it just now didn't click for me how that applies to you and how that applies to me. Well, I guess I know how it applies to me, but there's like a particular sense to which you need to apply this. So let me explain. I binge watched Russell Brunson on YouTube, and I binge listened to his podcast. That is what you need to be for your business, for your market. Let me repeat that. You need to be binge worthy. You need to be worth binge watching for your target market. If you're name your business, you need to be that person that people want to learn about. And that requires you to publish, right? That requires you to be on YouTube, social media, a blog, website. It requires you to be recurring and be up there with the latest updates, searchable and able to be found. So he was binge worthy. And I found that Steve Larsen, when I transitioned from Russell Brunson to Steve Larsen, it was because I had heard the same stories over and over again from Russell. And I heard them all. I heard them all. And that made him the attractive character. I had finally reached 100% of his attractive characterness. He uses a term called attractive character, and I'm not going to necessarily refer to the full why it's called attractive character for him, but the way I define an attractive character is that binge worthiness. And I had heard all of his stories. I've listened to tons of it, and I've heard probably 10 different stories repeated at least twice or 3 times. And that's when I'm like, okay, I've heard it all. Which is that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying I've heard it all. And so now I understand his attractive character from beginning to end. Steve Larsen, I have not mastered his attractive character. I don't think he's mastered his attractive character either, because I'm still learning new things about his stories and his experiences. He is not as fine-tuned as Russell is. And it's really cool to see that, because it's more closer to where I am. And I get to learn from someone who's got a ton to share that's extremely practical, but his attractive character isn't as honed in. And that I think he's aiming for that. He's aiming to have that attractive character honed in, but it's not his main priority right now. He is still got a very small team. And you might be in this same position as Steve is, or as I am. Small team, that's not a main priority, is to fine-tune the attractive character that you are, the binge-worthiness that you are. And that might be where you are, but he's still able to provide valuable content, and he's getting there. Russell Brunson, he's got over 200 people on his team. He is able to spare that time to be the attractive character and to fine-tune all of his stories and what he puts out there. And he's had the time to do it as well. And so time is really important. But here's where it gets really good. And this is why you need to put this into place. And it clicked for me. This is the part that clicked for me. I was like, okay, attractive character, he's tells the same stories because it looks really good. But it really clicked for me that I learned 100% of his attractive character. And that's all I can see. I have not bought anything but some of his books. There is a wealth of knowledge beyond his attractive character that he's ready to share. There's another marketer called Frank Kern. That's his name, Frank Kern. And, he's quite the character as well. And his attractive character is very informal, but it's also very fine-tuned. He gives a lot of free content, but the same free content over and over and over again. But why? Why have I learned 100% of what Russell has to give, and Frank Kern gives the same amount every time? And so I know 100% of Frank Kern's free content, attractive character, and I know 100% of Russell's. It's because there's a ton more behind the paywall. And I need to, the point of the attractive character is to get people to learn more that they can't learn with this attractive character. Envision the attractive character or the binge worthiness of a character or a person or a company like you as the first product, as the free gateway into what you pay for, what the people pay for. So how does this apply to you? Well, you need to be out there, like I said, but you need to make yourself the master of what you do, the master of your area of expertise, so that people can binge watch you, so people can love what you do. And you need to appear everywhere, as many places as you can. This is where networking comes into play, and actually helping people go everywhere and as a helper, so that your name goes wherever your help goes. And this makes you someone that people want to follow. And once you fine-tune what you give, and you're everywhere, that's when people are like, okay, I want to pay for this now because I love what he's giving me right now, this free content. That's what the attractive character is for, is to get people in so that they come behind the paywall. So whatever your industry is, right now I'm thinking about leather because I want to buy like a wallet. I want to buy like a leather pocket clip for my keys. And I've been trying to find someone who does that. And I had a friend just refer me to, it's called the Rabbit, which is basically a clip with the keys on the end that I can put on my belt loop. I didn't know who it was. I forgot who it was because I went through my social media and kind of I kind of purged it, I guess you could say. And the friend sent me that, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this person. I remember seeing that name somewhere, the Rabbit, and being like, okay, I need that. But I forgot who it was. If you're in the leather goods industry, you just become the person for that topic. The person. You network real hard. I know you might not be in this industry, but I'm in the everyday carry industry. I carry a pocket knife on me. I carry a wallet. I carry, I've got a few knives, and I've got one on the way actually. And I love carrying that kind of stuff. And there's this guy who I forget his name, but I watch him on YouTube, and he's all about everyday carry. And he's got this whole setup, and he is the person to go and review this stuff and figure out the best EDC packages that there are. There's another guy who, because this industry is spiking so much, he started out at like 1,000 followers on Instagram. And I think his name was Raven the Pirate or something like that. And because the industry is booming for this kind of stuff and the aestheticness and how fun it is to follow stuff like that, he got connected with people. He got connected with big names like Peter McKinnon, if you want to search him, or that guy I just referred to, the EDC guy on YouTube. They're all laced together because he produced really good content, and he got connected. And now he's at like 15,000 followers just because people loved his content so much. And now he is people's go-to for everyday carry stuff, or leather, or knives, just to see really cool content. And that's how he became an attractive character. And now if he had something to offer, which I think he has, I think he's sold coins of like his logo or something like that, that gets people behind the paywall because he was a great attractive character. So I want you to be the master of your subject so that you gain a following and you become able to turn more profit through your back ends because you master your attractive character and get people through the back end. So I thought this was really, really worth sharing. And it's just an observation I had. That's why I was rushing to do this. I just made coffee, and it clicked while I was making coffee, and I was like, okay, let's just drop everything right now and do this. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.